In this video I paint Vax from the Vox Machina. Hello Bitsbrood, it's Craig from bitsbox.co.uk here with the latest in our Critical Role painting series. So yeah, I'm going to be painting Vax in this one from Vox Machina. And I'm just going for a tabletop standard as always. Now it's not a great deal of colour to this miniature, he wears very sort of dark leather armour, but still quite fun to paint nonetheless. So before we begin, as always, if you're new to the channel, or you're just here for Critical Role miniatures and you want to stay up to date with everything we do, then do feel free to hit the subscribe button. And just before we begin, just a huge shout out and a massive thank you to everyone who's on our Patreon. If you want to know what our Patreon is all about, there is a link down below. So let's get straight into painting Vax. So here we have the Vax miniature, and as always he's been primed in a light grey primer. I'm using Grey Sear from GW, but you can use any spray primer that you so wish. I'm going to take some Corvus Black, so this is mainly going to be applied over a majority of the miniature. So this is a very dark grey, rather than going in with a pure black. I just thought it'd be quite nice to use a really dark grey instead. But you can of course use a black if you so wish. I do recommend, even if you do undercoat in black, to use a black paint over the top, as it'll make cleaning up mistakes later down the line a lot easier. I do apply 2 thin coats here just to get a nice smooth coverage, as you can see. So next I take some Storm Vermin fur, and this is for his cloak. So I just want to mix up a little bit, have a different grey there. Now you can have any grey you so wish, but I really like this colour, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to use it on this miniature. And I do a couple of thin coats, as always. So next up I'm going to take some Abaddon Black, and this is going to be for his hair. So the sculpt's a little bit sort of hard to see around sort of the ear areas, so I may miss some bits here, but I do go back later on and neaten them up. So I'm going to take some Nuln Oil now and just wash all these areas with Nuln Oil. Because we've gone for a really dark grey rather than a pure black, the Nuln Oil will actually show up a little bit, and you'll see a nice sort of shadow in the recesses. Obviously on the cloak it shows up a lot more, and if you spread it around you'll get a nice even finish. You don't really want it to pull up too much in the recesses, but it does really bring out the detail quite nicely. So next I'm going to take some Eshin Grey, and I'm going to dry brush this over the miniature. So if you're new to painting, dry brushing is essentially you get sort of a bigger, older brush, put some paint on it, and then wipe most of it off onto a paper towel, and then you just gently brush it over the miniature, and this will make the paint, what's left on your bristles, just pick up all the sort of raised areas and give you a nice little highlight. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. As you can see, these areas are starting to stand out. So next up I take some Dawnstone. This is going to highlight his cloak. And I sort of used the wrong brush to start with, and that's a bit of a sort of manky work brush, so I do switch to my thinner brush. And anything with a good point, you'll be able to hit these raised areas, no problem at all. Just thin the paint out a little bit, just so you've got more control. And that adds a really nice highlight to his cloak. So I'm going to take some Rhinox Hide next. This is for his boots. I'm also going to paint the pouches in this colour as well. This is just to break up all that black as well. I mean, you could keep the boots black, but I just wanted to have some other colour on there. Even though this is a really dark brown, it just adds a little bit more colour to him. And I'll take some Goreful Brown to highlight this area. So with a good tip on your brush, just pick out the raised areas and any sort of detail that's on the boots. Again, just thinning the paint out will just give you a bit more control here. When it comes to the pouches, I'm going to just give them a edge highlight, just going around the edges with this colour, nice and simple. So next up we move on to the blades. And I'm taking iron hand steel, but you can literally use any metallic silver that you have on hand. I just really like this one because it's one of the new paints and it's not sort of too dark or too light, and it covers really well. So there's also like a sort of belt buckle and a couple other little buckles on his straps that I also paint in this colour. So some brass scorpion is next, and this is essentially just going to paint the handles on his daggers. Just a hilt as well. Also just gives him just a little bit more colour that I think he so desperately needs. So next up I'm going to take some non-oil once again and just apply it over the blades. Try not to have it pull up too much. So Kislev flesh is next, obviously for his flesh areas. I thin it out and apply a couple of thin coats as always. I start with this one because it gives him a nice light skin tone, which I think is good for his race. Don't want to go too dark. However, next I do take some Reikland Flesh Shade. This will darken the flesh down a little bit, but it'll bring out all the detail as well. But we'll lighten that back up in the next couple of steps. So next up we go back to the Kislev flesh and apply it over the majority of the skin areas that we've just done, just leaving that Reikland Flesh Shade in the recesses. The reason I do this is because applying the shade wash makes the initial base colour darker, so we're just bringing it back up to where it was before we applied the shade. Again, I've thinned it out to give myself more control, and that gives a nice smooth finish as well. Next up we take some Flayed One flesh, and this is to highlight the skin areas. As always, I'm doing the nose, the cheeks, the chin, just above the eyes, excuse me, also knuckles and things like that. It's a bit out of shot, so I apologise on that, but also I went a bit too heavy on the nose, but I do fix that. So make sure you thin this paint out more than usual when you do this, otherwise it will look like it does on the nose there. But I fix that out just by going back in with Kislev flesh. Next I take some Stormhost Silver, because I wanted to give a highlight to the blades. This will just also give a little bit of appearance of them being sharp as well. I also apply this highlight to his belt buckle and other little buckles and straps. So again, just a good tip on your brush and just take your time. And lastly, I do his base. As always, I'm just taking a bad and black, but you can do the base however you so wish. 2 or 3 coats of a bad and black will give me a nice smooth coverage. And here we have the finished miniature. So yeah, pretty straightforward this one. He's mostly black, but yeah, quite enjoyed painting him nonetheless, and I think he's turned out pretty good. So next up we're going to do his twin sister Vex, and I'm also going to throw Trinket into that video as well, and then we'll have the full Vox Machina set completed, which I'm really looking forward to having done. And I'm even more looking forward to moving on to the Mighty 9 in the near future as well, so look out for them in the future. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do feel free to give it a thumbs up, leave any comments down below, and I'll see you all again in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please feel free to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. You can also click that bell icon to be notified when a new video has gone live on this channel. On the screen now are 2 more videos that you may wish to check out, and a link to our Patreon page also. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.